Hey everybody, welcome to Marvel Champions Monthly, a fan podcast about the card game Marvel Champions, designed by Fantasy Flight Games. I am Kennedy Hawk, one of your hosts. I've got three amazing co-hosts with me today. So we have Crimson. How's it going, Crimson?
Yeah, it's going pretty good.
Pretty good indeed. We have Amerikano. Almost didn't make it because of the drive.
Almost, but I made it. I had to make it because I have some strong opinions about tonight's episode.
Don't get too defensive, but yeah, okay. And we have a new host joining us, I think pretty much permanently on the show if we can make it happen. So we have Attercop. How's it going?
Hey, it's good. I'm super happy to be here.
So, can you tell us about yourself? You've been on the show a couple times before, but remind people of your card gaming history and your comic book lordom.
I've played tabletop games since I was in middle school. I've played Magic since I was 12-ish. I really like specifically playing cards over any other kind of board games. So I'm going to keep doing it. And coincidentally, I've been reading comics since about the same time. So here we are with a game that combines them both.
Yeah, it's hard to pass, right?
Oh yes, Days of Overpower. Marvel Champions.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was too young for Overpower, I guess.
Did you play Versus then?
I played a lot of Versus System. Actually, that was the first time that I was able to pursue competitive scenes and take part in the meta. And that was a blast. My friends and I would all pile into a car and drive for 2 hours to go to like I mentioned it recently, the MAV pre-release with Masters of Evil, Thunderbolts, Avengers, Squadron Supreme, I think.
That was a good one.
Dude, we drove for 2 hours and got housed by a bunch of people cheating.
So I take it I'm still the oldest person here.
Probably.
Maybe. Sorry, I didn't want to take it away from you.
That's okay. I'll be the cranky old dude.
Just being considerate, yeah.
So who's your favorite hero in Marveldom?
Oh, it's Cap. Well, Captain America.
Marvel, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Captain America.
That's a weird way to say Wolverine.
Oh man.
Yeah, it must be.
Super Soldier Program, same thing.
No, you and the guys over at Critical Encounters really must get along.
Me and
that was a joke, by the way. That was a joke. They hate Captain America.
Yeah, that's all right. We get along pretty well.
I think they hate all the heroes over there. I don't know.
I mean, but Captain America and Iron Man are top tier on their list for those that they have a vendetta against.
It's true. It's kind of like their job over there. They really like Hawkeye, so I can't complain.
He's a reformed criminal.
Yeah, they're supposed to like the villains, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. And what's the diametric opposition of a villain? The goodest guy around.
And he's pretty basic too. So,
oof.
He's like the Cyclops of the Avengers. Oh,
yeah, Cyclops, calm down.
Hey, Cyclops is cool. If you were 16 and you got put in charge of all of your dumb friends with crazy powers, you'd be a jerk too.
No, I like Cyclops. Me and Kennedy both like Cyclops quite a bit.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I really like Captain America.
Yeah, that's fine. I get it. You give me a hard time all you want.
Well, we're going to add a new segment to the show. You're going to give us some comic suggestions from recent poll weeks. Is that how this is going to work?
I figure we'll talk about some relevant stuff from the last couple weeks. And we'll keep it short. So let's get cracking, right?
Hence the name.
Yeah, let's keep it a whole minute, right?
I'm going to insert a ticking clock over you later. Just get ready.
I love it. So the most significant thing that I want to talk about that came out in the last 2 weeks is Women of Marvel #1. It came out just this last Wednesday. Your local comic shop still has copies of it. You should still be able to order copies of it. It's Marvel putting together about 12 short stories, all by women in the industry, starring significant characters. Peggy Carter's in it. Hela's in it. She-Hulk's in it. Lady Deathstrike's in it. It's really cool. It's really fun. It's punchy, and it's a lot of comic for your bucks. It also has the most Marvel Champions adjacent story I've seen in a long time, with She-Hulk fighting the Rhino. So If you're listening to this podcast and that doesn't sell you on it, I don't know how to sell you on a comic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Another quick recommendation since we're here, Black Knight got his solo miniseries. It's really good. It's written by Simon Spurrier, who does a lot of really weird stuff. So if you like strange stories, Arthurian legend, and a lot of violence, Black Knight 1 through 5, I believe is what it's going to be. It's only on number 2 right now. So if you opened up your Rise of the Red Skull, got your Black Knight, and said, "Who the hell is this?" Well, you can find out who the hell this is.
Nice. Good suggestions. The She-Hulk one's really funny because when we did our She-Hulk episode, I was trying to find She-Hulk Marvel Champion stories where She-Hulk fought against Rhino, and I was just Googling it. And she had never fought like Rhino in a story before. All the stories were like people on forums from the 90s like debating the strength of She-Hulk versus the strength of Rhino. But now we have a comic about it, so I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to spoil anything, but the Superhuman Law Division comes into play.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Can't
yeah.
wait.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's a pretty cool lawyer.
That has nothing to do with She-Hulk. With the new U ruling, that's not She-Hulk anymore. You're out of luck. RRG jokes. It's okay. All right. Well, today's topic is going to be Galaxy's Most Wanted, episode number 2. So last episode, we talked all about Rocket and Groot and the player cards you can get. Today, we're going to talk about the first 3 villains from Galaxy's Most Wanted. So we got a ton to get through, so we're going to just get underway. I'm going to give a brief overview of the campaign, just talking about how the campaign structure works within the box, and then each of you is going to overview one of the villains, and we'll talk about the modular sets that come with them, what some of the worst cards you're going to experience are, some tips to winning, and then sort of a review of each villain. Where do we grade them on the F to A on the funness scale? The scale, like you're just, eyeballing it.
Okay. So
Let's do it.
that's so it's the funness scale. That's the grade we're gonna give it at the end.
Yeah, all A's,
Okay.
right? Spoilers.
Okay.
Whatever scale you want to give, that's fine. Funness, difficulty, how many times you smash your head into the wall, I don't know.
Sounds fair.
I won't belabor that point. So the campaign, Galaxy's Most Wanted, is pretty cool. So it connects 5 scenarios, 4 different villain characters. So you're going to fight one villain twice. We'll find out which one later today. Those scenarios interconnect through a narrative, which is really cool. So as you do things in scenario 1, it's going to affect scenario 2. Unlike Rise of the Red Skull, where you got sort of these upgrades that were static after each mission, here you're going to get victory points or units that you spend on some market deck. So there's a market deck of cards that you're going to buy things from in between missions to upgrade your deck along the way. There's a couple oddities in the campaign itself. So in the standard campaign, you're fighting against standard villains with a standard side scheme that starts in play, a standard leveled side scheme. And those side schemes can be pretty brutal, even in standard, but you're still allowed to change your deck in between scenarios. You can change aspects and things like that. In the expert campaign, you have an expert side scheme that starts in play, and then you have to change. You cannot change your aspect or your deck in between scenarios. So you pick a deck for scenario 1, and you're stuck with it for 5 scenarios. There's lots of interesting ways to get victory points, so you can defeat that side scheme that starts in play, which you're probably going to want to do because there's bad things on it, so getting rid of it is good. You can defeat minions with the victory points on them, and then there's some unique ways in each mission, whether you end in the first stage of the mission or you defeat all the minions or something like that. You can get these bonus victory points to spend in the marketplace.
That's specifically called victory, right? That's the keyword.
Yeah, the keyword is specifically called victory, and it's really important that you know what victory does. So when you defeat something with the victory keyword, it is removed from the game and put into a victory display. So that means you are not putting it into a discard pile, which is going to be really important with one of the villains that we talk about today. So that is sort of the campaign structure. They've said since then in the latest RRG update that there's 4 ways to play the campaign. So you can do a standard campaign in standard mode where you're using the 1-2 villain and you're using the standard side scheme and you're using not the expert set. Or you can play the standard campaign with the expert villains and the expert modular set, but still with the standard side schemes because that's determined by the campaign level. So there's sort of like a standard/standard and standard/expert level. And then there's an expert campaign that starts with the expert side scheme, but you could still fight against the standard villains with no expert modular cards mixed in. So there's sort of 4 difficulty levels baked in there. It's really confusing because there's an expert campaign that you can play without using the expert modular set. So it can be very confusing, but hopefully we'll have a video on our YouTube channel soon explaining like the 4 variants of the official campaign, but also giving suggestions on how to like, I wouldn't say make the campaign more fun, but to tweak the campaign to your liking. So that's going to be all I'm going to say about the campaign because we're going to go through the campaign by talking about all these villains. So today we're going to do those 3 villains, and then next episode we'll talk about the last 2 villains, the marketplace, and just the campaign experience overall. So,
Okay.
You guys got any other comments about the campaign?
It's rough.
No, I'll say it for
It's brutal. We'll just say that. It's not Rise of the Red Skull. You're not going to win on your first try in every scenario, unless you play Hulks. But that's a different story. All right.
You'll link to that video in the description.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can put a link to that video.
undoubtedly.
It was comical, don't worry. She-Hulk may have bit a bullet, but it's okay.
It's called teamwork.
Probably not very
Teamwork.
many upgrades. I don't know.
Oh no, I was all over the upgrades.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on to the first villain. So the first villain you're going to face off against is the Brotherhood of the Badoon, who is led by Drang, the Badoon leader. So this is a scenario you're probably going to want to have some damage mitigation or healing to go up against. And we're going to have Amerikano give us the overview of this scenario.
Yeah, so Drang, this reptilian humanoid leader, I don't know. Is he a leader of the Badoon? I don't know. It's this scenario or this set has only 13 cards, the Brotherhood of Badoon. So is this the small? I think this is the smallest scenario that we've seen so far in any of them. And let's see. 3 of those are the Drang 1, 2, and 3. So Drang 1, he has one scheme and 2 attack. Drang 2 has, and he has 13 hit points per player. I'll get to his ability in a second. Drang 2 is 2 scheme and 3 attack, 14 hit points per player, and Drang 3 is 3 scheme, 3 attack, with 18 hit points per player. So, he's kind of a little bit weak on stage 1, but he has a forced response on his scheme in stage 1. When he, after Drang schemes, resolve the Badoon ship's charge up ability. So the whole hook with this Brotherhood of Badoon is this Badoon ship environment card that based on the stage 1A. The setup tells you to put the Badoon ship environment and the Milano support. So I'll get to that in a second. The Milano support into play. So the Badoon ship has a charge up ability that says special, place 1 barrage counter here. Then if there are 4 or more barrage counters here, deal 2 indirect damage to each player and remove all barrage counters from here. So the idea behind this set is that Drang is charging up his Badoon ship. They're coming to Earth to invade the planet, and they're charging up the Badoon ship to deal direct damage or indirect damage to all of the each player, and that's going to happen as soon as it hits 4 and as soon as it charges up and hits 4. So you're going to have this happen several times. So when Kennedy Hawk says have some damage mitigation, he's not kidding. This is going to happen to you. Depending on how fast you do it, it's going to happen several times in the game, probably. And stage 2, his force response is when he schemes again. It's the same thing. After he schemes, resolve the Badoon ship's charge up ability. So basically, when he's scheming, he's charging up his ship more quickly. His Badoon ship. Then he also has a when revealed effect. If Drang's spear is in play, give Drang 1 face down boost card. Otherwise, search the encounter deck and discard pile for Drang's spear, reveal it, and shuffle the encounter deck. So the spear gives him a +1 attack. It attaches to him. Drang gains Stalwart. So this is one of the new keywords in the game. Stunned or confused. So characters that have Stalwart can't be stunned or confused. So while you might be playing Protection to help with the damage mitigation, you're not going to be able to use your stunning effects from Protection while he has his Spear in play. You have to use a hero action to discard it. Spend a whole bunch of resources. I don't know the theme behind that, but someone might. Attercop maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just to punish you.
It's there's it's to punish you. It's just
okay.
They're angry.
You got
They're
stabbed
from
by the
space.
spear or something. Yeah, I don't know.
They're angry. They're from space, and they have space weaponry. That's pretty much the Badoon.
Okay. So his third level is when revealed. So he has the force response on his scheme and his attack. So this isn't when he schemes. This is after Drang activates resolve the charge of ability. So he's super powered villain on stage 3, 3/3. When he's revealed, discard the top 4 per player cards from the encounter deck. Each time a minion is discarded this way, put it into play. You put it into play, so it's discarded. It's not revealed. That's key to know. And then you put it into play. Engage with the player who is engaged with the fewest minions. So not the player that revealed it, or I guess doesn't really matter. It's just going to start going around the table. They're just you get a minion and you get a minion and you get a minion, right? So this should be Oprah, not Drang.
Minion Oprah. I love it.
Go ahead and look under your chair
So,
if you thought you were leaving without a minion.
Yeah,
I'm gonna Photoshop a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean that's pretty much it. He only comes with a couple minions in his deck. I think that the recommended modulars have the
Badoon Buddies module.
Is that what it is? Band of Badoon? Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of recommended Badoon, yeah. Minions in that. If you throw in, I mean, not in the campaign, but if you throw in like Masters of Evil, that type of thing, you're playing an expert, it's gonna trigger a lot.
I don't think it's ship command.
And what?
You also get ship command.
Ship command, yeah. So ship command comes with the Milano, right? So I'm glad you said that because the Milano is a new thing for this campaign, and it stays with the first player. Let me pull it up here. It stays with the first player. The ship command comes with, I think, 7 cards. One of them, so 6 of them go into the encounter deck. One of them, the Milano, is a permanent and it's set up, and it's the first player controls the Milano to support, and has an ability on it, piloting, resource, exhaust the Milano, and then you get to generate a wild resource for any player. Pro tip, maybe not pro tip, but I found that using the wild resource is probably not the best use for the Milano, because there are a lot of things that will for example, a lot of abilities in the ship, I think is in the ship command, that lets you exhaust the Milano to get rid of them, or remove threats from the schemes, that type of thing. I think there's even, if I recall correctly, in the Drang himself, some of the side schemes there lets you act the first player action to exhaust the Milano to remove threat from the schemes and things like that. So unless your wild resource is going to, I think generally it's better to use the Milano, the first player to use the Milano to remove threat from these schemes, because they're thematically, it's a blockade or a bombardment or spatial positioning. So the Badoon are coming, and the Milano goes and helps with that threat. So for me, overall, this is all about space fighting, and so the Milano being a permanent part of it, required modular set to go in with it, makes perfect thematic sense to me. I love that you can use that Milano to remove threat from these side schemes that happen to be space battles. That to me, thematically for this one, knocks it out of the park. Besides the spear, I guess. Everything else with the Milano, I think it's very well designed. So
yeah, I think you're dead on with the Milano. If you don't have a reliable way to spend a single resource that doesn't cost you a card to thwart 3, then you always want to thwart 3.
Right.
Yep. And unlike most main schemes, the main scheme's going up by 2 per player, and it starts with a ton of threat on it. So it's starting with 2 threat on it. It goes up by 2 per player, and it pops at 8. So just
it starts
one
with,
scheme, it can
it
go
starts
crazy.
with 2 per player threat on it.
2 per player threat, and it goes up by 2 per player, which is
Yep.
it adds up to be a lot.
Yeah, so you're. Oh, and I guess I should point out the main scheme does allow you to use the Milano to remove 3 threat from that scheme. I said side schemes, but the main scheme also does.
Oh,
Because
right.
it's all
Yeah.
space. So that's probably, especially if you're not playing a Justice deck, that's probably your best use for the Milano as the first player to remove that threat, because it does go up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Milano is so nice with a hero that only has like 4 hand size too.
True.
Yeah, the Milano is really nice in general. I like it as a modular set to throw into anything. I mean, why can't I fight Rhino when I'm on the Milano? Maybe he's in space breaking and taking. I don't know.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Well, but thematically, right? The Milano, then, I mean, yeah, there's nothing in the Rhino deck that's gonna let you benefit from being in the Milano specifically, but that modular set will have things that you can use.
Yep, and
The
it'll have
ship
things
command.
that will sort of attack the Milano, right? There's some treachery cards where it's take some damage, spend some resources, or exhaust the Milano. So it's a little interesting.
So for your example, I would see the Milano as coming down to the ground level, and all it can really do is kind of distract him, get you a wild resource. But then if an environment card or something gets pulled from the ship command, it's got to take off into the space and deal with it. So
I like it. The
I
theme
think
is a win on the Milano, I think.
absolutely, and with the Brotherhood of Badoon, I think that those work in conjunction so beautifully that I love the theme of this. I think they really did do well with the space battle on this one.
Drang is a really important person to Marvel history. He appeared in all of 4 comics, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
He's up there with Spider-Man, just divided by 1,000 or something like that. So he didn't even appear in Earth 616. So he's probably got pulled in by Kang in the last scenario. Who knows? Real popular guy.
That's it. That's it. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
I like Drang. Drang's one of my favorite scenarios in the box. I think he's pretty fun. He's challenging, right? He ramps up from stage 1 to stage 2 in both stats, both scheme and attack, which a lot of the villains didn't do. They ramped up in like one or the other. So he gets a really big burst, especially since he goes and fishes out that weapon in stage 2. So in standard mode, it can be quite jarring when you jump from 2 to 3 or 1 to 2. And when you jump from 2 to 3, the same thing. He kind of feels like mutagen formula. I mean, in 4-player, he's going to discard 16 cards from the top of the deck. If those are all minions, they're all coming out.
And the Badoon module was all minions.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
He was very fun for me. I did have to kind of go all out with She-Hulk Justice, but I was able to take care of him and the minions fairly okay. Now I played on standard solo play, but yeah,
as we all should.
Yeah, I definitely had to heal a couple times, and I don't know. I really liked it, though that spear is a pain in the butt.
Stalwart is annoying. And one of the things with Stalwart is if you stun Drang and then he finds his weapon and gains Stalwart, it discards the stun and confuse from him. So you have to make sure that you...
That is the worst.
What's I know. It's no fun.
So
it happened.
So I'll tell you. Go ahead.
Oh, it happened like 12 hours ago, and I'm still upset.
I'll tell you, the first time I played Drang, it was on standard, and it was 2-player, and we just looked at each other and we said nope, and we scooped it up because we fell so far behind immediately. There really was no coming back from it, and I was like, okay, that was my first inkling of this is definitely not a Red Skull box.
Yeah. I was convinced it was at first, because the side scheme that comes out with Drang, it starts with 2 + 3 per player, which is a lot of threat, but it has no icons on it in standard mode, and when you defeat it, you draw a card. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, these side schemes are going to help me. I just have to remove a bunch of threat, and then I earn a reward. But then the expert one starts with an acceleration token, and when you defeat it, you have to discard a card from your hand. So it's like a double negative, and I'm like, why would I ever want that?
And it's 3 and 4 per. instead of
Yeah,
2 and
so in 4-player, that's going to start with 15 threat on it, and your reward for removing all that is you have to discard a card from your hand.
So if you really are, if you love pain, play the expert campaign. Is what you're saying?
Well, there's some tricks you could do too. So if you want to play the expert campaign in standard or in expert, the when defeated is each player must choose and discard from a card from their hand. The word must is kind of a soft word here, because if the 4th player playing defeats that and nobody has cards left in their hand, guess what? You don't got to discard anything. So it's really great with Hulk because you discard your cards from your hand at the end of your turn, and then you let She-Hulk discard the side scheme, and you don't have to worry about it. So that's the trick there. No, we weren't playing expert. We were playing standard.
Too scared.
The best way to play.
Yeah, so I think for me, the Brotherhood of Badoon honestly gets an A for fun. It's I mean, a little bit probably more difficult than the standard or than like the par for scenarios that we have. But I think that the theme of it for me, the space battles, like I think it was very well done. So A for me for fun.
Gets an A from me as well. I really like the modular set that comes with it. The Band of Badoon is a 10-card modular set. It is 10 minions, and they range from 1 health to 6 health. And all 10 of them have a boost ability. So target acquired is like pretty much when you get your Galaxy's Most Wanted box, make a deck, remove a card, and then put target acquired in because you're not going to regret it. Because the 10 boost abilities that come in Band of Badoon, one is like a boost ability that gives the villain overkill and piercing. So if you had tough, it's gone. And if you chump blocked, well, guess what? You're taking it to face. One of them puts the Badoon into play with you. One of them gives him +2 boost icons for a scheme. One of them gives it for an attack. So he's got all sorts of like awesome boost abilities in that Badoon set, and they feel super fun and thematic. You feel like you're being swarmed by this alien invasion.
Would you throw this in the Band of Badoon and any other heroes, or I mean, do you feel like it fits in any other heroes? Or sorry, villains?
I don't know if it fits
Claw.
them, but yeah, I tried it in Claw and I regretted it almost instantly. I think I confused him and I got him down to like 0 threat in the main scheme. So I was like, I can flip down. This will be fine. And he cleared his confusion and he drew an advance. And then he drew a boost card that gave him an additional boost card. And the second one was one that gave him like +3 while scheming. And I'm just like, well, Claw just schemed for 12 or something. This is no big deal. It's okay.
It turned Claw into Solo Rhino.
Yeah, pretty much. It was brutal.
Everything is fine.
I like Band of Badoon with Ultron for like a doomsday scenario kind of thing, like where everything's going wrong. Why not just throw a bunch of Badoon in there too?
So you got robots or androids and aliens coming in.
Yeah, you just need wizards.
They're kind of greenish. You could pretend they're goblins and put it in mutagen formula or whatever too. So I mean,
That's
it all
nobody will
works.
notice.
They all look alike.
Those Badoons have really cool abilities too, not just their boosts. So there's one with retaliates, there's one with overkill, there's one that like spawns another card on you if you don't have other minions. There's another
That's
new
not
keyword.
fun.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean
Grunt?
they're fun if you're a villain. I don't know.
I don't like the way you're
Yeah,
using fun or awesome here.
I mean, I'm one of the I love when you get new minions because I don't know. They're different than they're almost the mirror opposite of like side schemes. If you had a whole modular set of just side schemes, that's going to focus on threat. The minions are going to focus on both, but you can get so many different abilities and stuff. So while I understand what you're saying, Kennedy Hawk, I don't like the Badoon Grunt.
You don't like the Badoon Grunt?
No, it's such a misleading card. I said this.
It's his
I said this
eyes.
I said this on Discord. The Badoon Grunt, you have this tiny one right in the front, so it's like a Badoon. I picture Badoon Runt instead of Grunt. It's a 2/2, and it comes into play. It's like, okay,
I think what they should call him is Badoon Scout, right? He comes into play. If you don't have another card, he like throws something at you, so he's like scouting the region. I thought it was very like fitting of the art, right? Because there's a bunch of Badoons shown there, so if you get one, it doesn't make sense because the card shows a bunch of them, so it deals you another card. And with how many minions are in this modular set, it's probably another Badoon jerk.
yeah.
It's
I
true.
don't know.
Hey, what do you guys rate it?
I'd
Drang it.
definitely, yeah, I'd put it at an A. It was very fun.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it has that like sense of urgency that's really important. It gives you that invasion feel. Like you have to act quickly. You can't just hang out in a spot because there's a war going on.
that Badoon ship will really kind of build up. It's really gonna charge up faster.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna change mine to an A plus because my favorite 3 villains used to be Claw, Crossbones, and Mutagen formula, and Drang is now in that top 3. Like I think he is that fun to play over and over again with different modular sets and stuff. I
doubt.
really like Drang.
Okay, I'll ask you this before we go to the next one. What modular set not from this box would you like? Do you like to play with it?
Masters of Evil.
Okay.
So I think that especially if you're playing expert, if you're an expert player, like those pros out there like me, then you really want to include like a minion heavy modular set for when he flips to Drang 3, because
Yeah.
if you put like experimental weapons in and he discards 16 cards and he reveals 0 minions, you're going to be like, well, great, an acceleration token, who cares? But if you put something with a ton of minions in there, so I think Masters of Evil works really well. Legions of Hydra can even work because you have a good chance of getting Madam Hydra and one of those guard minions. Basically, minion heavy sets. You can also do him like I put him in there with Electro, because Electro has all that stuff that discards a bunch of cards from the encounter deck, and then he burns cards from the encounter deck. And if he brings Electro out, it just like increases exponentially, and everything's getting discarded from the encounter deck. So he can be fun with Electro too. I don't know if any of that. Well, none of it is thematic. He's only been in 4 issues, but we can pretend.
Yeah. That's the joy of playing the game. It's the beauty of it.
It's true.
I haven't tried him with Anachronauts yet. I didn't feel like doing that to myself.
Man,
Don't do it.
So what was
Yeah.
what do you think the nastiest or most fun card is from this set, depending on how you want to answer that question?
I think the card that the nastiest card I think is the spear, probably.
Agree.
I don't think that's the most fun card though. I honestly I think that the Badoon ship, the environment, it's not the flashiest, but I think what Attercop said, it gives the sense of urgency to the scenario. It makes it feel like it
Yep.
an actual invasion. So I think that is the key card to the scenario. So it's not flashy, but I think it's a very well designed card.
Yeah, mine relates to that. I hate that Badoon Engineer. 2 scheme, 1 attack, 3 health, but when he engages you or activates against you, he resolves the Badoon ship's charge up ability. And he can even do it on a boost ability. He resolves that charge up ability. So if you've got 3 counters on there and you think you're safe for a round, and Drang boosts that charge up, all of a sudden everybody's taken 2 damage. And I've seen many an ally and hero die to the Badoon Engineer being boosted. And it's just...
Is that the
Just hero.
first? Is that the first card that we have that when a minion engages or activates against you? Because when I read that, I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that." I don't recall seeing that ever.
Most of them are one or the other. So that's like a new ability. He triggers a ton. You have to get rid of him as soon as he comes out, pretty much.
Yeah.
his job. He just loves his job.
I mean, he's tinkering. Look at that. He's doing great.
I don't know where his arm is.
It's up in the thing, right? He's engineering.
He's engineering. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Okay.
That's what he's doing.
So what are some tips to beating Drang? We already mentioned a couple: running target acquired, always using the Milano to not thwart, to remove threats. That's an important distinction. There's a new keyword, patrol, that makes it so you can't thwart against the main scheme. You can still remove threat from the main scheme, just not with a thwart action. So the Milano lets you bypass those patrol minions. But what are some other tips for beating Drang?
Speed. Be fast. Hit
Hulk.
hard and carry a big stick.
I know I'm filling in for the aggression player here, but I have to agree 100% that you get in and you wrestle Drang. Like, that's it.
Don't waste time.
Yeah,
Don't
he's got a
think,
big...
oh, well, I can chill this turn and I'll do stuff next turn. Yeah, no, you don't have a next turn sometimes.
His main schemes can pop really quickly, especially the second one. If you get to the second one, like you really feel the urgency. So you can't mess around. They're coming for the planet.
I think even though that Spear has Stalwart, I think Stuns and Confuse are still really strong against Drang. You just have to remove that Spear because it goes to the discard pile, and His first two forms only trigger that charge up ability on Confuse, and then once per turn when the main scheme has step 1. So if you can confuse him and flip down, you're going to feel really good. And then something Attercop and I didn't use earlier. Remember how we couldn't clear all those minions? We were really mad at ourselves? The first main scheme says you can exhaust the Milano to remove 3 threat from the scheme. The second one says you can remove 3 threat or deal 3 damage to a minion. So we could have pew-pewed the Milano, or used the Milano to pew-pew that last minion away in main scheme 2B. So
We
pay
didn't
attention
play-
to the main scheme.
We didn't play Hulks, regardless of their degrees, to read anything.
I
played-
think you needed to do some more experimental research. I'm just
Well,
saying.
let me just say, this is just one of those things with the main schemes. Why I love the theme of this. The first one is terrestrial invasion, so you only get to remove the threat with the Milano because they're coming. But then the second one is protect the planet. So Drang and the Brotherhood have already reached. Basically, they're shooting up civilians down on the ground, so you can take out the minions that have jumped off the ship. Anyway, the theme is an A+, I think. of
Yeah.
this.
Absolutely.
It
This is an
must-
invasion, for sure.
I feel invaded
Anyway.
by boost abilities.
Okay.
So quick, before we move on to the next scenario, there are a bunch of different ways you can get these units to spend in the market. So we're going to overview the ways you can get those units, because you can get a lot of them if you're good, unlike us Hulk players. So you get 1 unit per player when you win the scenario. So if you win, good job, you got a unit. You can get up to 3 units based on victory cards that you've removed and put into the victory display. So that the campaign side scheme gets you 1. And in the campaign, you shuffle in this guy called the Badoon Headhunter. And he's a jerk of a minion. He's 1/1 with 7 hit points. And he has Villainous, so he's going to get a boost card every time he attacks or schemes. But he's got Victory too. So if you get rid of that side scheme and the Badoon Headhunter, you're up to 4 victory points or units. You can also get one if there are no minions in play. Good luck. And you can get one if you stay in the main scheme 1B. So if you do pop to main scheme 2, you can start using the Milano to remove those minions, which is going to help you get a few more units. So ultimately, you could get a maximum of 6 units per player to spend in the market. And there are cards varying from 1 to 7 in cost. So you really want to get as many units as you can. So focus on staying in main scheme stage 1B. And even though we all just said, bum rush Drang and get rid of him, if you have the chance to remove all the minions right before concluding the scenario, go for it. I say get that extra dollar. And that's Drang, A+. Box closed. We're done.
Yeah, pretty
All right.
convincing.
It's all uphill from here, right?
All uphill from here. Well, the next scenario is a scenario that you're probably actually going to want to race even faster than Drang, because you're going to be so sick of fighting against him and losing potentially. And it is the first form of the Collector in Infiltrate the Museum. So Attercop's going to give us an overview and tell us all about the hook of this amazing scenario.
Yeah. So the Collector, you guys might know him as Benicio del Toro. You guys might know him as the guy who had Howard the Duck, because he did. So quick rundown player stats, right? Stage 1, he's got a 2 scheme and a 1 attack. Stage 2, he's got a 3 scheme and a 2 attack. Stage 3, he's got a 4 scheme and a 3 attack, which is pretty crazy. So obviously, you don't want him scheming at all, if possible. And now here's the clincher. But before I read it, you guys know the best text in a game is draw a card, right? You always want to draw cards. And that's because you put all your good cards in the deck because you want to play them. Well, forget it. Against Collector, you can't play all of your favorite cards. In fact, you can't even smush minions without having to really think about it. So his forced interrupt says, when a card, player, or encounter, that it clarifies, when a card would be placed into a discard pile from play, put it face up into the collection instead. So all 3 of his stages have this. So however you're playing the Collector, he's going to take your stuff.
Makes sense thematically, right?
Yeah, he's just collecting. The thing that doesn't make sense to me is if you punch out his henchmen, he collects them. I like the visual of Hulk throwing his gigantic fist into a guard and then him getting slammed into a cage or something, because that's funny. But why does he want him? And why do I lose? Because I sent him all of his guys back. He should be like giving me some kind of refund. I should earn credits for giving him back.
This is true. Let's
Yeah.
reverse the scenario.
Yeah. So, stage 2, when he's revealed in player order, each player must choose to either put the top card of their deck into the collection or take 3 damage. Similarly, on card 3, put the top card of each player's deck face up into the collection, and place 1 threat on the main scheme for each card in the collection. So you could just end the game by pushing him to 3. If the collection is too
I
large,
have done it before.
Was it your
you're
first
just
time
like-
playing? Did you know what a 3 was? Did you?
I
know it
did
was on the
not,
card?
and it wasn't my
Okay.
first time playing. It was real fun.
And if you haven't played Collector yet, you might be saying, Attercop, what's he doing with all these cards? Why do I care? He can have all of them. Well, if you thought you could only die by being threaded out or being bludgeoned to death, I have bad news for you. The collection can also kill you. If he steals enough of your cool stuff, you lose 5 per player. So you're playing solo, and he grabs 5 cards, or you killed 5 minions, or, you use your enhanced physique enough times, and you're dead. Sorry, bud.
So there's an alternate lose condition.
Yes, there are 3 ways to lose to the collector.
Yeah, I call it the sad loss because he took all your stuff and now you're sad.
He robbed you.
You call him the sad boss? Is that what you said?
the sad loss.
That's a
Losing
sad
that
loss.
way.
Oh, the
it's
sad
sad.
loss. Oh, the sad loss.
I'd rather lose by death than lose
Yeah,
my
no.
allies. That's all I'm saying.
Just don't
He-
kill the minions so they just attack you.
You should be able to buy a card called Xanax.
He stole my dog earlier, so I punched him for 15. So
Were you
that's
playing
kind of how
John
that played out. Yeah, he was just bigger and greener, but mostly the same guy.
I think that's what we call super retaliate. Take my dog, punch you 15.
So you
now
can
want that custom.
you can buy your stuff back from, of course, for 2 resources, which isn't terrible. Exhausting your hero, which is a lot easier. It's a lot easier.
Quicksilver.
Captain America. And you at least get to pick it, so that's kind of nice. But it is limited once per round per player, so you can't like discard 4 resources, pay 4, and then get 2 cards back, or exhaust and pay 2. You can't do that. You can only save 1 card per turn, so you have to try to regulate how much is going into the collection every single turn.
Is there another way to remove a card from the collection?
Yes. If a player is defeated, I think all their cards are removed from the collection. Technically.
Okay. Okay.
So if you've got
So you're
10
telling-
cards and there is She-Hulk, you might just want to take one for the team. And
Seppuku. Seppuku is the other way to take out the collection.
I'm not sure if that's true, but there's a rules question about it. So I'm not saying I
Oh,
haven't
man.
tried it before, but
So pending
more-
pending that ruling.
So more than likely, it's just slowly going to collect, and it's going to be very difficult to get to gain ground on that.
Right. It's easy to get. It's really easy to get behind. The way to get around it, obviously, is to just not play things that will be leaving play. And that can kind of guide your turns a little bit more than you normally would. So you're going to try to avoid things that you have to cash in, stuff like resourceful. You don't want to play. And of course, he has the standard module. And he also brings another copy of Caught Off Guard in his own module. So if you love discarding your upgrades, well, I got great news for you.
yeah.
And his
Yeah.
extra modules are no joke.
His modules are brutal. So things that can go in the collection: defeated minions, defeated side schemes that don't have victory, defeated allies. So if you lose an ally to consequential damage or chump blocking, too bad. Preparations, sorry, just don't play Black Widow.
Don't play Black Widow. Don't
yeah.
play Rocket.
Cards with uses. Cards discarded from treachery effects, like Caught Off Guard. And lots of other ways that you could end up discarding cards, but they have to be from play. So if you discard a card from hand or from the top of a deck, that's not discarding it from play, so you don't have to worry about it there. But
You can
there's
you can
enough
steal your
ways
hopes
to
and
discard
dreams.
things. Yeah.
But when revealed, though, you do have to put the top card of your deck face up into the collection or take 3 damage. So you could potentially have an event card go into the collection.
You could, and he takes the top card of your deck at setup. So
Right.
you can take event cards. With She-Hulk, he takes your superhuman strength when you activate it, which is very humorous to think about. He has sucked the strength out of me and put it into a cage.
So
But
even
not
Miss
me.
Marvel is not immune to the collector.
Even Miss Marvel is not immune. This is correct. And yeah, he racks up cards really, really, really fast.
Yeah, it's always surprising like how quickly it happens, but it just gives you another dimension for pacing, I suppose.
Now,
Don't go for it.
now I know a lot of people have had trouble with this. Now I only got to play it once, and I did defeat him on the first go. Now again, standard solo, and I was playing She-Hulk. But you're right. Like there are things that I didn't play that I normally would play, like superhuman strength. I didn't play it at all, and the freaking psychic ghost is the worst card in all of this.
Another
Yes.
case for target acquired.
So he's got 2 modular sets that come with him. One is the Menagerie Medley, which again, they love minions in this campaign box. It's a 9 card modular set, all minions. These Psionic Ghosts that we're all lamenting have 2 scheme, 2 attack, 4 hit points. The ghost traits, in case that's ever important. When revealed, you are confused. If you're already confused, sucks to be you. Take him 1 damage. And the boost ability is to put the ghost into play. So he won't confuse you when he's put into play by boost ability, but he's still going to probably scheme or attack against you for 2. So it's just as bad. And you
And
can't
there's 4
defeat
of
him
them.
because it goes to the collection. Yeah, and there's
Four
just a
of
casual
them.
4 of them. Don't worry about it.
4 copies of it. Oh,
And
There's
that 4 health is really the thing that hurt the most was the 4 health. Because doing
Well, yeah,
3
especially
damage
against
is
She-Hulk,
very
right?
yeah, like 3 damage is generally something you can easily pull off, but 4 gets to be a little bit more tough. You need to extra for 4, and oh my gosh, I hated this stupid thing.
Yeah, there's 3 copies of Servant Bot, which is a 1 scheme, 1 attack, 3 health minion with guard and patrol, so you can't attack the villain and you can't thwart the main scheme when this guy's out. He's kind of a jerk. And there's 2 copies of Star Shark with 1 scheme, 3 attack, quick strike, and 7 health. The creature and elite trait, and damage from Star Shark's attack is dealt as indirect damage. And on boost, he damages all the characters you control. So there's all sorts of nasty villains.
so
Not villains,
Every one of these
kind of
is
like villains.
can I mention something about Star Shark that just occurred to me?
What's that?
So his attacks deal indirect damage, right?
Mhm.
Cool, fun. He's a Star Shark. Great. He's got everything going for him, basically. Does this mean that he's like shooting lasers at us? I think it's like an aquarium, but it looks like his mouth is like charging up.
He could be firing something out of there. We should ask Patrick, the artist, and find out.
I think this is a frickin' shark shooting frickin' laser beams.
I don't know what you're referencing, sir. I think I do. I know, yeah. Who the collector, yeah, kind of reminds me of. He's kind of like Dr. Evil. So the cool thing about Medley Menagerie is none of the cards have boost icons. But unfortunately, 6 of the cards have boost abilities, so still sucks to be you.
So we don't want to talk about the infiltrate the museum. We just want to talk about the side schemes, right? Or the side modular sets, right?
No,
we don't want to talk about it.
We can talk about it. It's just man, that ghost was.
I mean, I don't really want to talk about it.
My night.
We just got distracted, but
I just don't really want to talk about the collector anymore.
you have to. Sorry, you have to. It's part of the fun.
I hate that scenario. I'm sorry. I just don't
We
like
need
it.
to collect your thoughts. Tell us what you think.
Okay. I just don't like it. I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm going to be negative for give me 30 seconds, okay?
Sure.
Because I'm
I
not.
don't
I'm
You gonna talk about image?
usually the one that's like, hey, protection's awesome. And now you guys realize protection's awesome because of the RRG. But I'm going to just say this scenario for me is really hard. I can't figure it out. I haven't unlocked or cracked the code. I don't like that he takes upgrades and supports and his minions. I don't understand that. I don't understand the side schemes. I don't get it. And the fact that you can put events in there, not from his ability, like from his when revealed stuff, like in the start of the game, doesn't make any sense to me. Like if you got Brotherhood of Badoon on this side of the spectrum with like an A+ for theme. The Collector has some things going for him, but I think there's some misses there that I'm just like, I don't know what they were going for. They just wanted to make it harder. I have no idea. And
I see what you're saying.
Those few things really turned me off to the theme of it, especially because you come from all these things, including the Milano with the Brotherhood of Badoon, and then you got just the Collector that just wants to like watch you like break each finger slowly. Like
He just wants to take his goodies.
that's what it feels like. Just
Probably put it
slowly,
in the
just
box.
oh my gosh. Anyway,
I agree. Like events,
I'm done
captured
being
is a
negative
little
about
weird.
it. I'm done being negative about it.
Events being captured is weird, but this guy is like an elder god or something, right? Why can't he just, suck the 1-2 punch out of me and put it into a container? I have no idea.
You just have to put him in a position where he doesn't want to try to catch any more punches.
Exactly. There is some really fun theme within the Infiltrate the Museum like set that gets shuffled in, because again, the set is only 13 cards, so it's all from the modular sets where you're getting a lot of your flavor. But one of my favorite cards is Inconspicuous Box. They actually contracted this art out to Patrick McAvoy, so I think that's hilarious. They sent someone an art prompt that was like, "What's a box on a table?"
Can you imagine his response when he saw that? He's like, "You're kidding, right?"
I'm gonna knock this one out of the park.
I can just imagine like Rocket in the collector's lair. When revealed, put the lowest cost card you control face up into the collection. If you cannot this card gain surge. So he like gets really close to this box, and it just like opens up and like steals his rocket launcher or whatever. It sounds like the most hilarious scene from the movie that I expect like probably got cut from the movie. I like that card just because of the theme and the biogram image. I think like the mechanic is really like cool theme wise. So you attach it to the collector, it's an attachment. Forced interrupt: when the collector would take any amount of damage, put this card into the collection instead. So that part I don't understand totally, but prevent all the damage that would be hit against the collector and instead place that threat on the scheme. So like you're infiltrating the museum, you're supposed to be like all stealthy and not all hulky. So instead you like punch at this biogram image, you like smash the wall, and it alerts the collector to your presence. It seems like a real cool themey win. So I liked some of the themes. Well, I mean, I hated the card. It was
I hated it so much.
But I did think it's funny that here they say put this card face up into the collection, but they could have just said discard this card because then it goes to the collection anyway. But
oh my gosh,
the biogram image is 100% the card that like confounds me the most. I'm glad there's like one copy of it, because you're already in a position where you have to regulate threat, taking your damage, and the collection, and now you have to not overextend to deal damage, right? You have to find a small packet of damage to just give away. And the consequence is that you still get a card in the collection, and now you can deal damage to him normally. And there's no way to just discard it or just get rid of it like a lot of other attachments.
Right.
So that's pretty rough. I feel like this one card is disproportionately difficult than the others. But maybe I'm being dramatic.
No, this is the card that did me in. Absolutely.
It's a collector backflip.
That moment when you realize, I have way too many cards in the collection and I can't do anything about it. All right, time to tear this one up.
View the Cosmos is a really interesting card.
I won't do that. Don't worry. So everyone that just like had a heart attack, their heart skipped a beat. I won't tear this up. I probably will never play it outside the campaign, but that's okay.
So it comes with one other modular set. Did we talk about Galactic Artifacts yet?
We didn't.
No, that's the fun one.
Is it? I mean, the art's pretty well. Some of it's fun. So it comes with 5 attachments that can attach to things, whether it's the enemy with the lowest attack, or your identity, or the enemy with the highest scheme. All sorts of weird, different ways that it attaches. And then 4 side schemes that have victory 0. So they don't give you units at the end of the scenario, but they remove themselves from the game instead of going to the collection. All those attachments are real nasty because if they attach to a minion, now when you defeat the minion, 2 things go to the collection, which again is really hard to maintain. Anybody have a favorite galactic artifact or least favorite?
The poison.
Is
The poison by no small margin. It's
is your least favorite?
yeah. Sorry. It came up while we were playing. It came up when I was playing solo, and it just like screws up so many turns because now you have to.
I have
You have to
died
like
to the poison too many times.
you have to deal with the extra damage, right? Or you have to spend 3 resources to get rid of it, which in solo that's a lot of action. Like that's a lot of action to get out of it. So even so, I still like this module like quite a bit.
Yeah, I like that the side schemes give you a benefit for defeating them because they all come into play in solo with 5, and in multiplayer 11 threat, I think, and they have acceleration icons or hazard symbols, or there's a new side scheme icon, the amplify icon, which increases all boost cards by 1 boost icon. But one of them readies your hero, one of them draws you cards when you defeat it, one of them heals you. So sometimes you can like use those to your advantage a little bit. So I like that they give you some breathing room with those. Yeah.
I think that the Beyonder's Blazer is kind of a cool idea. I don't know the Beyonder in Marvel Comics. I don't. Is that a villain? Is he a villain?
Kind of. Yes and
Kind of?
no. Yeah,
Okay.
he meddles. That's like his thing. He's from a different dimension or whatever. He's
Okay.
tremendously powerful, and sometimes he just decides like, "Hey, everybody is going to a battle world now."
Okay.
So the battle.
I just see this. Okay, that makes a lot more sense then. I just see this as like a flashy piece of clothing, so that it's somehow your hero puts it on. So now all of your like
that jacket is
just-
sweet.
it just makes it harder. Like the villain is just looking at you now. Like he can't take his eyes off of you because you have this blazer on. Like, or the minions are going to come after you because you're wearing the blazer. I don't know. It's just such a silly idea.
He's just too fresh, and everything is more threatening now. And that's all there is to it. Like they put on that. The collector walks out. He's like, "What do you think about this?" And you can do nothing but lose faster.
Yep.
All right, well, it's almost time for the next version of the collector, but let's give some tips for defeating this infiltrate the museum scenario. So other than Amerikano, who has ideas on how to defeat this, other than just putting it in the shredder?
Decide
everyone at once. Not everyone at once.
Decide what's important. If take a lot of time in your planning step or your player turn. And figure out what you need to take back from the collection. And if you don't need to take anything, just run into him. Honestly, just run into him. Even if you're in the campaign, you lose your cards for one scenario.
Yep.
Let him have them for a little bit. But if you can push through, because he's not huge. Like he has a pretty low HP in general.
Yep. Rushable.
So yeah. So if you can trade a couple cards or like trade your activation here and there, that's enough to keep you alive. We were complaining about how the collection grows pretty quickly, but even in solo, realistically, he's probably only taking one card a turn, and then maybe 2 on a bad turn.
Yeah, I think that not jumping with allies is a big thing. Use your allies fully. So once an ally is down to 1 or 2 HP, start using Earth's Mightiest Heroes and strengthen numbers or stuff like that to get advantage of that ally without putting them into the discard pile, because that can buy you a lot. But at the same time, like if a big attack is coming, just take the jump and lose Spider Girl or whoever, because it'll be worth it. There's a lot of high health allies. What's that?
I was just gonna say I noticed that Groot was pretty good against them because he could heal the ally Groot.
Yeah. I think you ally Groot's pretty good against him. I think like Hulk ally for 2 costs to have 5 hit points, he can usually soak 2 attacks from the collector and then only put 1 card into the collection. So that's a pretty good deal. I was of the opposite opinion. When I'm playing solo in this, I think every turn you pretty much need to remove a card from the collection, because I think that as minions come out and you have to deal with them, if you're going to defeat those minions and have him steal cards from you through his treacheries and other things, you're going to, if he starts getting 2 cards per turn in the collection and you're only removing 1, then you've only got 5 turns to win. So you've got to make sure that collection stays low, or as low as you can. If it's ever hovering at 3 or 4 when it makes you lose at 5, you're going to have a real feel bad turn soon.
I would say that I'd risk it at 3. At 3, I'd continue to push.
At 3, I'd risk it if I saw like end in sight. But if I was still in like the first phase of the villain and it was at 3, I would say no. I got to remove stuff before I worry about flipping him.
Right.
Do you prioritize taking minions and side schemes out?
I don't. So that was the other thing I was going to say is maintain minions and side schemes if you need to. So allies like Spider Girl, when she comes into play, she can stun and confuse a ghost. You can now let that ghost sit out there for 3 turns, and on that 3rd turn, he's finally going to activate against you. And if you can defeat the Collector within those 3 turns, then you don't even have to worry about that ghost.
Yep.
So Spider Girl is good. Pheromones you probably don't want to use on a minion from Spider Woman because you could stun and confuse any enemy, but you'd probably rather do that to the Collector. But at the same time, if you've stunned and confused the Collector, you can probably soak a minion attack and a minion scheme for 2 turns and leave those minions out there for longer. But if too many minions get out, then you run into trouble where multiple sharks are shooting laser beams at you and things like that. So you have to be a little careful.
What about when you what cards do you, I mean, I'm guessing you're going to prioritize, at least this is how I played it, but don't ask me. I'm not an expert in this one. Removing from the collection your cards specifically and leaving, or do you take those minions and side schemes out of the collection when you're removing them to make the encounter deck larger, or when it gets reshuffled?
I usually don't live long enough for the encounter deck to reshuffle.
Okay.
So I've either lost or won by that point. So I do usually prioritize my cards if I'm going to reshuffle my deck. When you buy a card out, it goes into your discard pile. So if you're playing like leadership and he steals an ally, that's another good way to bring that ally out if you have make the call and things like that. But I generally prioritize my cards when I'm pulling things out of the collection, or a player card if it's in multiplayer and not a villain card.
You mentioned Make the Call here, and I think it's significant to point out that cards like Make the Call and Rapid Response, just leave them at home.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because with Make the Call, you can spend your allies as resources on the first pass through your deck, playing events and things like that. But then if you have an ally like Goliath or someone that can be like a real finisher, you can make the call with them in that last turn. And if you're playing the expert campaign, you don't get to change your deck. So if you don't bring Make the Call for scenario 2, you don't bring it for any of the scenarios. And it's a really good card, so it's hard to pass up on stuff like Make the Call. I'd still keep it as a 1 or 2 of. And I might just not care if it ends up in the collection, right?
Yeah, that's true. I guess lower counts, right, if you're not changing your deck.
Yeah.
But in general, you're going to get way less miles for...
Especially when you can't change your deck in the expert campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I think that, just avoid chump blocking. If you're going to play allies, which it's going to be hard not to, you have to use them for their stats, which is something people aren't like really used to. So bring those allies that sit around forever, like US Agent and Hulk, hopefully, and Brawn and things like that, because you can use them 4 times before you end up chumping with them. And use your hero, maybe even play a green hero and protect your allies to keep them out of the collection, and you'll do pretty good. That's my take. His side scheme is pretty nasty for campaign. I guess we skipped that. So his side scheme, we'll get the campaign stuff over with and then go to the next collector. So his side scheme in standard mode starts with 3 plus hinder 3. So that's up to 15 in 4-player. And when defeated, you place the top card of your deck in the collection. So there's another way you can get a second card in the collection.
Oh,
yeah, it's gross. His expert one is 4 plus 4 per player. So it's 20 threat for that victory one. This one you can game a little bit, because when defeated, each player must place 1 card at random from their hand into the collection. But if everybody has empty hands because you're at the end of the round, then your random card is no cards, and you don't have to worry about it. So that's pretty nice. But it's got a hazard symbol, so you probably don't want to wait around forever for that situation to occur.
You keep talking about this expert mode. I don't.
Yeah,
know
you want to know how bad
about.
you want to know how bad expert collector is. So he gets the card into your collection from the main scheme setup. In expert campaign only, also after setup, each player must choose a card from their hand to put into the collection. So that's 2 starting out of the 5 you're allowed. And you're starting with collector 2. So right away he reveals himself, and you have to take 3 damage or place a 3rd card in the collection before you've even done anything. So that was my last chance. Is for Collector 2, just always take the 3 damage. It's almost always worth it, rather than taking the top card of your deck away.
That's rough.
It's gross.
Yeah, in solo, there's like no way to dig out of that hole. You're functionally playing a 3.
A 2-card collection the rest of the game, right?
Yeah.
One other thing that we didn't point out earlier, or I may have glossed over it, I've seen a lot of people confused by this, but on Collector 3, if you're going to play Expert, all those forced interrupts that say when a card would be placed into a discard pile from play, put it face up into the collection instead. Collector 3's is even worse. It says, put it into the face-up collection instead, then place a threat on the main scheme. So, just like Drang, when you hit Drang to stage 3 and all those minions come out, you're just going to burn him dead. You need to do the same thing with Collector. As soon as you reveal pretty much every villain in this campaign, the stage 3 villain, you just got to nail him that turn and end it. So, be ready to burst when you go to stage 3. All right, units for the Collector. So, you get 1 for winning again. Woohoo! You can get up to 3, 1 from the victory display, and that Badoon Headhunter, he came back to headhunt you again. And if you defeated him last time, it's going to put a treachery card into the deck as well, which is real nasty. If there are 1 per player or fewer cards in the collection, then you get 1 extra unit. So good luck. And if the main scheme has no threat on it, you also get an extra unit. So again, good luck. So realistically, you can get 6 units here. I guess not realistically. In a hypothetical world, in Magical Christmas Land in the Collector Snow Globe, you could get 6 units. But
someone's done it, maybe.
Yeah, realistically, you're probably looking at 4 units if you get the Badoon Headhunter and that scheme out of the way. And that's not too bad. I'd be happy with 4 units out of this. So, finally, we're going on to scenario 3. And this is a scenario where you're probably going to want to be able to thwart. So I'm a little bit worried about how our Hulk team-up is going to do against this. But Crimson is going to tell us all about how you can escape the museum after you've hopefully infiltrated it successfully.
Now, sadly, I did not get a chance to play this one, but I can definitely tell you how this, from looking at the cards and everything here. So you're going to start with Collector, either A or B. So B is going to be your Expert, A is going to be your normal. He is rather unique here. So he's a 1/1 with 8 health. Seems great so far, right? Yeah, perfect. Nice, easy. Each of his attack and schemes have a star next to him. So Collector gets plus X scheme and plus X attack, where X is equal to the main scheme's current number. So if you're on main scheme 1, then he gets +1/+1. If you're on 2, he gets +2/+2, and etc., etc. When the Collector would be defeated, remove 3 threat from the main scheme and flip this card. 3 threat per person from the main scheme and flip this card. Now, this is where it gets interesting and exciting. On the other side, he is a 0/0 with infinite hit points. The Collector cannot be defeated. When the round ends, flip this card, then set the Collector's hit points dial to his printed hit points. So, this is a villain that you're not going to win by defeating the villain. Now, I believe, defeating him has its advantages because it's going to, set him back a turn or stun him for a turn type thing. Okay, now on the main scheme, you are going to do the Escape from the Museum, Galactic Artifact, Ship Command, and the standard modular sets plus the Mirage Melody or whatever. But you are going to set the Ship Command off to the side, and you're going to start with the Library Labyrinth environment in play. This is where it gets fun. So,
Game win.
Yeah. The Library Labyrinth environment has a hero action. Deal yourself 1 face-down card and remove 5 threat from the main scheme. Limit once per round per player. So each player can do this action once. Now, the main scheme is going to start with 7 threat per player, and it's going to tick up 1 per player. And its threshold is 11 per player. When the last threat is removed from this scheme, advance to the next scheme. And as always, if this scheme is completed, you lose the game. Now you go to the next scheme. This is where you have a reveal effect to set the set-aside Milano support ship into play under the first player's control. Now, it doesn't say put the rest of that modular into the deck. So you're just getting the Milano. That's it. And like the other one, it starts with a high amount of threat. So it's going to start with 11 per player and tick up 1 per player with a 15 threshold. And then same thing here. If, when you remove all the threat, you'll advance to the next one. If you don't, you lose. The last one is where it gets kind of interesting too. So you're going to flip the Library Labyrinth. So the Library Labyrinth is now gone. You can no longer deal yourself an encounter card to remove 5 threat, which actually is very bad. Like you really, that 5 threat has been helping you. Trust me. Then you're going to place an acceleration token on the main scheme. Shuffle the remaining cards from the set-aside ship command encounter deck into the encounter. And this is a little bit more unique. So it's still going to start with high threat, 8 threat per player, 12 threshold, 1 per player gain. Well, technically 2 because you got that acceleration token. But it now has an action on it, which is first player action. So only the first player can use this, obviously, because it requires you to exhaust the Milano to remove 3 threat. If there is no threat here, the players win the game. If this stage completes, the players lose the game. So this is a high-speed chase through the collection. It is quite interesting, and I can't wait to give this one a go. This is the one that I'm most excited about playing. But because I haven't played it, what do you guys tell me how you guys have experienced this?
So I've had mixed feelings about this one. I think it's really fun in the campaign, and I think it, like you said, it feels like a high speed chase. They get that theme nailed down for the campaign. But if your hero is bad at thwarting, this feels so bad. If you're playing a bad thwarting hero, like maybe Hulk or something, yeah, you could knock him out once per turn and remove some threat, but you're going to be taking extra encounter cards a lot. And people know my opinions on heroic mode. So that basically makes it heroic mode every turn, which is no fun.
Yeah, but
At the same time, it's probably the easiest scenario in the campaign. You flip, if you can knock him out, it's going to reduce his stats, which is great, and remove some threat. And if you can knock him out and use that labyrinth ability every turn, you can pretty much knock out the first 2 schemes, one in each turn, and then you just got to deal with scheme 3.
But you get the Milano for scheme 3 for the third one.
You get the Milano
for the second
3. One. You don't get to reduce threat in the second one, but you get it in the third one. You can even remove threat with it there. That Library Labyrinth flips and becomes the museum ship in the third scheme, which is real annoying. So one of my strategy tips is use that Library Labyrinth as much as you can for scheme 1 and scheme 2, but make it so when you flip to scheme 3, you just knock it out that turn. Because if you can avoid that museum ship going off where everybody takes a bunch of indirect, then you're going to be pretty happy. It's definitely an interesting scenario. It's definitely a different feel, and I like the different win condition for the heroes. But I don't like that it's so heavily emphasizes thwarting. It feels bad for non-thwarting characters.
This feels right up my alley then.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's fine for leadership too. It's just like Black Widow against Collector feels like you're slamming your head into a brick wall. If you're playing a protection character that's bad at thwarting,
you're playing Hulk aggression.
Yeah, or if you're playing an aggression character and none of the minions come out for you to use your little thwarting tricks, you're just going to be punching things and then hoping that you don't flip advances.
I should also say that this pack also only comes with 6 cards.
Yep.
And it's actually only 2 cards and 3 of each of them.
And almost all of them can confuse you. How fun is that?
Yeah,
One thing is this scenario is a lot harder in solo than multiplayer, because in multiplayer, if one person misses their like big thwart card for that turn, it's not as big of a deal. Like if the other 3 people all can take a thwart. But in solo, if you like don't draw into your 4 justice or into your thwarting action, it's a real bad turn for you, and you pretty much have to use that labyrinth ability. And then when you get to scenario 3, that puts an acceleration token on. In solo, that's like doubling the auto threat. But in multiplayer, it's just like adding 25% extra threat. A lot less painful in multiplayer.
So it favors multiplayer games and Justice players, really.
I'd say so.
I mean, I can't think of a way that you could, because I like the idea behind the alternate win condition, like an alternate way to defeat the villain. Because everything's been just defeating the villain, right? Deal damage. So maybe Justice players, the entire life of this game, have felt now how aggression players feel with this one.
And even if you're bad at thwarting, you at least have the library labyrinth for the first 2 and the Milano for the second. So if you can get 1 or 2 extra threat,
it's pretty solid. It's a fun scenario. It's not one that I enjoy standalone very much. I feel like when I'm playing standalone and I can deck build directly for this instead of having to keep one deck for the whole campaign, it's just you put all the thwarting cards in and you just play them and you win. Which I guess that's what aggression players feel like against Rhino. You just play all your attacks and you win. So I think Amerikano may have nailed it there.
You put him on the table and you see if he's dead, and that's how it works.
Usually, this guy you can't kill a guy with infinite hit points. They tell us that directly.
Not with that attitude, but we're going to kill him.
We'll be doing a lot of legal practice that day.
Remove him from the game.
And it uses the same modular sets as the other collector, which is interesting too.
So I would actually give this an A+ for theme.
Absolutely.
A+ for theme on this, but I'm with you, Kennedy Hawk, that it favors Justice. Really, it favors Justice players, multiplayer decks, but I think I'm okay with it because we have every other scenario that focuses on just defeating the villain by reducing its hit points to 0.
It's true, but at the same time, Justice has been one of like the most powerful aspects for the entirety of the game. So, did they really need?
If you want to play like a 20-round game,
that's true. Yeah, if you want to play a boring game, I think I'd give it an A for theme for sure, and an A for like creativity, and even an A in the campaign. I think it's nice in the campaign that you get 5 scenarios that feel very different. But as far as a standalone scenario goes, something's got to be the absorbing man of the box. It's too easy to game. I don't think I'm going to play it a ton standalone. Just because if I was going to play a standalone game, I'd rather play one that's going to give me, not that this one won't give you a challenge, but that forces me to not deck build a specific way, if that makes sense.
So just build your deck first and then have a friend choose a random scenario.
Yeah, and if they choose this one, I tell them to choose another one.
That was a practice one.
Practice choice. Choose again.
Yeah, for Escape the Museum, I think it's important to point out that Impossible Geometry is one of the coolest named treacheries with some of the nicest art and some of the best flavor text.
It's true. I do like that card.
Scotty Young Groot is unbelievably cute. And he's lost, poor guy. So you kind of feel for him. It's nice to look at.
I would definitely be lost there too.
Yeah.
And these ones, we use the same modular sets as the first collector, right? So we don't really need to go into those again.
Artifacts, Ship Command, and Standard.
No, they interact a little differently, right? Because now you're not so afraid of defeating those minions and defeating those attachments. So I feel like you have a lot more freedom in this one to like just smash those minions out of the way. The ghosts aren't nearly as scary when you're not like worried about them becoming a card in the collection. So I appreciate the modular sets a lot more in this one than I do in the collector Infiltrate the Museum. Did we grade Infiltrate the Museum? I want to hear Amerikano's grade.
We're giving our grade for Infiltrate the Museum for fun. F.
F is for fun.
F minus.
I'd say C. I enjoyed it, but I won on my first try. So
I would give it a C for fun. I'd give it a B to A for theme, and then just like the other infiltrate one, I think both the collector scenarios for me in standalone are just not ones that I'm going to enjoy in standalone. But they'll be super fun in campaign. So if I'm going to average them, I'm going to say they're a B. Collector's a B, solid B.
I think I agree for the most part. Like, collector as a whole is like a B, balancing its theme against its fun. I like having to keep track of the other dimensions of winning and losing. But at the same time, it does get a little tiring. So,
and let me be clear. I give it an F, but that doesn't mean that's just my opinion, and that's nothing against the developers either. Because I don't know what I would have how I would have made it any better. I'm not a developer. I just
Right.
don't like it. So
yeah, we're definitely not developers.
Is it your least favorite scenario in all of Marvel Champions, or is there something else that you like less?
yes, it is.
I think in
It is.
standalone, I'm more likely to play Absorbing Man than Collector 1 and Collector 2. And Absorbing Man's probably my least favorite scenario outside of those two.
I mean,
For
I would
standalone.
too. Yeah, so definitely
Okay.
Collector 1 is, yeah.
Well, that was a bummer to end on. We had A for Drang. Everybody felt good about him. And I think theme for Collector 3 we're all happy with. And I do applaud and like the alternate win conditions and alternate loss conditions. It's starting to show how much they can stretch these scenarios. And I think that they're just a little bit too, not too out there, but too gameable for me to enjoy in standalone. Like, I can easily make a deck that's just 25 events and probably beat Collector 1 and not play any allies. But that's not what I enjoy doing. And I can easily just run a Justice deck, but that's definitely not what I enjoy doing. So
Oh.
Isn't a leadership deck just a justice deck with more moving pieces?
yeah, it's just a Justice deck, but better. You're right. Nailed it.
wrong.
I think this is important to be like the middle of the campaign though. This is the Empire Strikes Back of the campaign. Like, things are going real bad for the heroes. Everybody's having a bad time. So how do
It's
they dig
true.
out of it?
And there's a bunch of stuff that happens in the campaign for this too. So you get that campaign side scheme again. Who doesn't love those? In case Justice players felt left out about not having things to do, fear no more. In Standard, you're going to have 3 per player plus 4, so that's a maximum of 16. And when you defeat that side scheme, your reward is that each player gets to be dealt 1 damage. So that's real nice. So don't worry, there's going to be threat to remove. And in expert mode, it's 5 plus 4 per player. So it's just a casual 21 and 4 player. And when you defeat it now, you take 2 damage for each player, and it has an amplify icon to make the collector extra nasty. So side scheme, horrible. In expert campaign, if you ever want to brave that, in player order at the start of the game, each player discards cards from the top of the encounter deck until they discard an attachment, and then they reveal that attachment. So basically, in 4 player, 4 of those artifact attachments are coming into play, which is fun. For earning units, you're going to get 1 for winning again, and then up to 3. So if you've defeated that Bethune Headhunter twice, he's now shuffled 2 extra nasty cards into the deck. You get, for every 2 galactic artifacts, side schemes in the victory display, 1 extra unit. So you can get up to 2 more there. And then I think that's it. So you can get 6 again if you're really lucky. But be warned, spoiler for next episode, depending on what artifacts you take, something different is going to happen in the next scenario. You might have a bit of a
We'll talk
bounty on
about
your
that.
head. So we won't
We'll
tell
talk
you what it
about
is. But yeah, we'll talk about it next time. So how you feeling so far? Halfway through the campaign.
Almost
Feeling pretty
halfway.
good. 3 wins in a row, right?
2
Do you
wins.
want you want to talk about that, or you want to wait till?
Somebody's salty.
Here, let me just tell you. I've said this before. I'm pretty casual, probably the most casual of all of us, and I play Standard almost exclusively. And so to come into a game with this box that is, in my opinion, has been marketed as a lighter, quote unquote, lighter living card game, if that can be a thing. I think it's, unless you have looked into it. So if you're listening to the podcast, you already know. This is for those people that don't know. They don't listen to any podcasts or anything. They're gonna be in for a sore. It's gonna be a rude awakening. They're probably not gonna have a good time with it, frankly, because of how difficult I think these scenarios ramp up the difficulty more than anything we've seen before. And not only the difficulty, but the complexity with the keywords and the types of win conditions and stuff. So, not that I think that's a bad thing. I'm just, I don't know that it's ideal, maybe, for without any warning. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, as a person who mostly played expert mode before, I'm finding that standard mode is like pretty well tuned for me. But that means there's nothing well tuned for the people that are used to playing standard. But that being said, you can still mix in any module set you want. I mean, it stinks to not use the new module sets from the box, but you can always throw, some Hydra bombers in there for the whole campaign. Who cares? And I think there's some ways that you can customize the campaign using some of the rewards from Rise of Red Skull and stuff like that. But we'll talk about that next week when we give our overview of the full campaign and our full thoughts / gripes or praises.
Yeah, and the collector's pretty easy to modify for your skill level. You could make it 7 cards in the collection instead of 5. It'll get a lot easier.
Yeah, if you want to make the collector really easy, just remove that menagerie medley that has 9 minions in it and put in something that doesn't have as many minions. Like even if you put Bombs in there. Yeah, Legions of Hydra. There's 3 well, that's got 3 minions and 2 side schemes. That might be just as bad.
Well, just put it in. Just add it to everything.
Yeah, just put it in for fun. Yeah.
Just start by shuffling in your Nemesis set. No big deal. Like, just have a blast.
We've done that before accidentally.
Nice 3 boost, Hulk.
All right. Well, that was all we had for today. So we've got one more Galaxy's Most Wanted focused episode, and then we'll have to move on to something new because there might be new stuff coming out at that point. So thanks for tuning in, and have a great week.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, see you later.